Hello everyone and welcome to part 10 of the Skyline build. During this video we'll be painting the frame and, well, basically giving it the base coat of what color it's going to be in the plasticine form. Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well, and thank you for tuning into Moose Motion. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed the content, comment below what you think, share with your friends, and perhaps consider subscribing if you're new, and be sure you have your post notifications turned on so you don't miss any of the new content. Anyway, thank you for your support, it's highly appreciated. So we're going to first start off by adding a few layers of clay to the window pillars in particular, mainly because that adds a little bit more depth to the actual windows, making it look, well, a little bit more legitimate, because right now it's just all flush, and, well, technically your window pillars do stick out a little bit more than the actual window, obviously. So we're just going to add one more layer of oven-baked clay before this goes into the oven. That way it kind of saves us a little bit more on material for the plasticine layer later on. But the biggest advantage, obviously, is the weight, because, well, unfortunately, I must admit, the hot rod in the background, that one is a solid plasticine car, and can be a little awkward to move around in comparison to the much lighter, well, AE86, as well as the, well, much larger wagon. Believe it or not, the wagon is a little bit lighter than the actual hot rod, even though the hot rod is, well, quite a bit smaller in comparison. It's just mainly because, well, material choices was a little bit smarter on that aspect. Plus, with the oven-baked clay, you can always start off with, adding a bunch of aluminum essentially inside the actual box portion, saving you even more on, well, material as well as weight in particular, because, well, it's tinfoil. Tinfoil practically weighs nothing. So, if you haven't caught up on the build series, I suggest go check out the links in the post description below. There you can catch up on the build series, as well as see some more animations. I'm also currently working on a new one where, well, I'm breaking in the Polaria. Things are taking a little longer than expected, unfortunately. I'm quite busy, so we'll have that one come out soon. Not sure exactly when, but I will be basically animating shortly after the release of this video, essentially. Anyway, back to the Skyline project. At this point in the build, we're going to quickly clean up the lines in particular, because this is kind of an important part. You want to make sure that your clay line is pretty much perfect for the windows, because this is the one part of the actual frame sculpture, essentially, that is actually going to be, well, visible the entire time. I don't actually put any plasticine layers on the window, mainly because, well, once you start handling things during the animation process, it's kind of nice to actually have the windows essentially as a nice solid point to put your hands to move things around. Therefore, you're not actually worried about damaging the plasticine. And some of you might ask, why do I just do it out of plasticine? For one, it's a little easier to work with in comparison to the actual oven-baked clay, personally. This stuff is much softer when you're working with it, just when it's not actually baked, obviously, in comparison to the actual plasticine, which is a little more solid, but obviously you can't exactly ever bake or make that solid at that point, unfortunately. However, you can manipulate it during the actual animation process, which I'm sure some of you are aware. The AE86 took some damage in the drag race, which I need to do an animation in fixing that soon, because, well, not too long from now, I imagine the Skyline will be rolling around and it's going to need a drift partner very soon. So we're going to just add one more layer to the actual fenders here, giving it a little bit more definition, because, well, kind of want to make this Skyline more of a Nismo model, essentially. So I noticed that they tend to have a little bit more of a nasty fender flare setup. Not necessarily nasty, but a little bulkier in comparison to the normal ones. So we're just going to add one more line, kind of giving it a little bit more definition, making things easier during the actual plasticine sculpting process. Then we're going to throw it in the oven one more time for about 10 minutes at 275 degrees Fahrenheit or 135 degrees Celsius. Then we're going to move on to the next step, which is obviously painting the frame a nice bright red color, because, well, I've been mostly going off comments for this build in particular. So we're going to basically, well, veer off from the actual drawing, obviously, and go with a nice bright red. And, well, that's going to be obviously not really ever seen at this point, unfortunately. Basically, mainly the reason we're painting the actual frame is more or less a security layer, just in case, well, one of the plasticine layers kind of gets scratched up during the animation process. Therefore, it won't be nearly as noticeable as, well, a bright white base coat, essentially. Then once we're done adding a few layers of paints to this thing, we're essentially going to move on to adding a few layers of clear coat to the actual windows, basically just giving them a little bit more shiny appearance, kind of making it look more reflective, kind of, fooling everyone that yes, this part is glass, therefore the rest of the car doesn't really have the same appearance, kind of making it look, well, more legitimate, obviously. And also, during this video, I didn't forget to add the moose like last time, so be sure to keep your eyes peeled for Milton the Moose. And for those of you who are perhaps just tuning in or new to the channel, Milton the Moose is essentially the little cartoon character you see as more or less the profile picture, for lack of a better term for description. But keep your eyes peeled for that goofy little moose, and if you timestamp correctly when he shows up during the video, you will get a shoutout in the next how-to video. So be sure to keep your eyes peeled for that silly little character. And perhaps if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and have your post notifications turned on so you don't miss any new content. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that like button too. That way I know you appreciate all my hard work that I put into these tiny little rolling clay sculptures. It's not exactly easy pulling it off, and I'm going to have to source out some steering parts for this car very soon, because, well, that's probably going to be a bit of a delay, and I might be working on, well, my next clay car for the next little bit if I'm fortunately unable to source out steering parts here, but I kind of have a few ideas up my sleeve, so shouldn't see any delays, but if there are, I'll be working on a Mustang next, so if you see a different car on the next how-to video, don't be too surprised. Also, be sure to perhaps leave a comment in the comment section below, leaving a suggestion for the actual car, what you would like to see on the Skyline, because, well, mostly at this point I think we're veering quite away from the drawing, and it's probably not going to look a thing like it, which I'm personally kind of satisfied by. It's going to be kind of cool going, well, basing off these cars more or less off comments and what you, well, my audience would actually like to see more or less on these little clay sculptures. So don't be shy, leave a comment in the comment section below what you would actually like to see on this car. So far I have a wide body suggestion kit with some white wheels essentially that are deep dish, so we got a few extra plans on the drawing board, and I might even just kind of redo the sketch, to be honest, to match what we've kind of got envisioned for this car so far. Or perhaps share the video with your friends, but at this point, I think I'm going to let you all go and give you a quick build rundown towards the end of the video. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed the content, and thank you for watching. And here we are towards the end of the video, where we're going to do a quick build rundown on what's going to be, well, taking place next time, as well as what happened during this video, which, well, mostly just involved a whole lot of painting. As you can see, well, it's no longer that kind of ugly base white color. It's kind of a nice bright red, and honestly, I quite like this more than the silver, to be honest. I'm quite satisfied with how this is going to turn out personally so far. So we'll basically continue on with building things off more or less the comment section. So if you have any suggestions for the build, be sure to leave one in the comments below. So let's have some fun here and see what we can make together. As far as next time goes, we'll probably start actually making some wheels for this car, adding some more, well, minor details. Apart from that, the base frame is pretty much complete and ready for plasticine, so the next big step will be actually adding some steering components, which I would really like to add before adding the plasticine, because it'll just be a lot easier to handle the car while it's still technically oven clay and not plasticine. And I got a few tricks up my sleeve in regards to doing that. I might need some square piped aluminum, so you're gonna have to stay tuned for that to see if that actually works out. I have a couple different, concepts that I've done in the past, but I think I got one that I'll be able to actually mass produce at this point. Anyway, I would like to thank you, my dear viewer, for sticking around to the very end, and be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the content, comment below what you think, share with your friends, and perhaps consider subscribing to me. Anyway, that's enough from me. Till next time, take it easy.